Hi, I'm Mark Buckingham, artist of Miracle Man, Fables, Death, and many other books over the years, and you're listening to 11 O'Clock Comics.
An incision has been made in the firmament. Dap's cutting through the crap with the woohoos.
Topical, timely, John.
Yep.
That's right, just like the surgeons were cutting through his knee.
That's why I said it.
I know.
Jesus. No, it's good to be back.
It is.
Yep.
Sort of. Yeah, sort of.
We'll see.
Oh my God, Jesus.
Yeah, it's like...
See, this could have been last night.
Yeah, it could have been. Well, he would have been all
Right.
salty last night as well. It's not gonna... It's not day dependent. So,
Nah, it's true.
yeah. Tell Beth that she's keeping us from reaching our creative zenith. But that's okay, because she's Beth.
Well, we've only got 2 episodes left, so.
All right. Hey, everybody. How are you? It's 11 O'Clock Comics, episode 960. I'm Vince B. Can you hear the smile when I said that? I'm Vince B.
Absolutely.
Good.
What's not to smile about? Yes, you're smiling. I'm David A. Price.
You are, but you sounded so...
Yeah.
I know. I was all thrown off because he didn't just say his name.
I know. I had an addendum to it, and he got all.
So I
busted
was
up.
all
Yeah,
just
fair.
so I'm all so the sponsor spot's gonna be shit too. Anyway, probably. Go ahead.
Oh my God, Jesus! It's not that toxic. Let it go.
Humbug.
It's
And
spreading.
Of course, I'm everyone's favorite Catman, Blue Lick.
Nice. You are the blue
Nice.
lick. But no, you know what? That would not be a bad thing. That would definitely not be a bad thing. But you're not blue lick. You're Jason Wood, everybody.
Says the man who's not keen on cats, but yeah, he's blue lick.
No, you know why he's
Bro,
blue
I had
lick.
cats for 20 years, dude.
I know you did, and every time we bring it up, you're like, "Oh my God, I'd never get another damn animal again."
Well, I
like
wouldn't,
Yeah,
because the last 5 years eroded and then
I
some
know.
all of the goodwill they created for
I know.
15 years.
Oh my God, I have to take care of these things? What?
Whoa!
getting old.
How would you
Wait,
feel?
are
if
you
your
feeding
beau-
them? Do we have to feed them?
If your beautiful stately manor was besieged with cat urine every day?
That's
I get
hard.
it.
That's hard to get rid of. Yes.
It is.
It
We
is
had to
very
replace
hard.
all the floors, dude,
Where?
in our house.
Under the carpet.
Not in the great room. You didn't.
No, but I'm saying the hardwood we just got refinished. But I'm saying all the carpet we had to rip up and replace.
Well, they were worth it. You're
They were
not. Stop.
You are not.
Too close to
Salt
Christmas. You're not blue lick. You're deep state bitch. That's what you are. You're Jason Wood, everybody.
This is true. This is
Here
true.
today, brought to you by cheapgraphicnovels.com. It's in the name. Just like CRIMEHOT, the book we're going to talk about, it's all in the name. cheapgraphicnovels.com. What do you want? I want graphic novels and OGNs and trade paperbacks and manga and omnibus editions and art books. I want all that stuff. Well, how do you want them? I want them cheap. cheapgraphicnovels.com, dumbass. Just go there and you will save immensely. But listen to this. If you're a first-time customer, you're heeding our pleas for you to go and save money at cheapgraphicnovels.com. All you have to do is when you get the email receipt saying, thanks for ordering from us, hopefully you kept it small. And I'll tell you why. Thanks for ordering from us. You're going to reply to that email receipt saying, I would never have known about this place if it wasn't for my booze at 11 O'Clock Comics. And Max is going to bounce back an email saying that reads, next time you order, shipping is on us. And that, my friends, is when you get the massive, I just got a hernia picking up this box order.
Mm-hmm.
And guess what? There's specials too.
There
course
are
there are.
specials.
Yep.
They're. It was a good week because at first I was looking at Max's email and I'm like, let me dig into this, and I threw a bunch on the Slack for our friends over there, but a few other things that I want to mention. DC Finest They're coming out hot and heavy. They got another 2 this week. You've got a Legion of Superheroes. Zap Goes the Legion. This is this is collects stories that were published between November 1968 through July 1974. You've got some issues of Action Comics, Adventure Comics, Superboy, the other DC Finest events, 0 Hour, Part 1. Both DC Finest books, 40% off, $23.99. This 0 Hour is one of 2 collections, and it's pretty much from a bunch of books. I'm not going to run down each one. From 1994. You've got the Midnight Radio trade paperback, 25% off for $13.49. This is from one half of the creative team for a thing called Truth, and You Never Heard of Me. It's Yolanda Zanfordino, and this is a book that I've been eyeballing for a while. I missed it when it was first solicited a couple years ago. Oni's republishing it, so now it's on my list. It's an anthology of sorts. Cannot wait to read it. We've got Pine and Merrimack collecting 1s through 5. That's 25% off of $14.99. This is one of my favorites. It's the One Hand and the Six Fingers trade paperback. And what's neat about this, it collects the 5 issues of both of those miniseries, but they're in alternating chapters. So it's the first issue of each issue, then the second issue, and so on, which is the way it should have been read as the issues were published. And finally, What If Into the Multiverse Omnibus Volume 2. You've got 2 flavors, a Hitch or Valentino cover, and this collects What If from 1989 series, numbers 40 through 75.
Okay.
Nice.
Respect.
Cheapgraphicnovels.com.
Max.
I should apply some kind of filter to that, some kind of echo or reverb,
You
real
should.
trappy.
Yeah.
I'm drinking.
Yes, you are.
I have my old buddy Sam Adam. I hate to use the old George Thorogood shtick, but I'm drinking with my buddy Sam Adam.
Ah,
I hate that song.
there you go. I am drinking a combination of things. I have some orange G0 and I have some Red Bull sugar-free.
Nice. Mm-hmm. You better get a little bit more upbeat. I'm not having it. Come on.
Oh, we're gonna round into form. I just want to see if I can go a few minutes with you hearing me before I get too excited.
What did you say? What? Sorry.
Oh,
You were fine. I'm just kidding.
yes,
I know.
Yes, you are.
Fucked up.
You fucked up.
You fucked up.
I am enjoying some bread and butter Cabernet Sauvignon from 2021.
You like bread and butter pickles?
I'm not big on pickles, period.
Oh, you don't like pickles, Dap? That's right. Yeah. I love bread and butter pickles.
Me too.
Yep.
Me too.
I've never met a pickle I didn't want to tickle. I love pickles. But,
Bernie's a fan, yeah.
like, I'll eat them, but I don't like them real garlicky, but the sweeter and the spicier they get. Like, if there was ever a spicy bread and butter, oh my God, I would just strap on the jar and just all day long. Yeah.
One of my favorite things about the farmers markets is the folks that make all the different flavored homemade pickles. We always buy a bunch of different kinds. Yeah, It's great.
Yep. Yeah. Whenever we go to Knoebels, I get the pickle on a stick, even though there's been more fists in that bucket. I don't care.
The brine kills it all. Don't worry about it.
Whatever, right? Yeah, it's salt. Mm-hmm. Just throw some salt on it. It'll preserve it. All right.
Before we jump into the comics,
okay,
I got something I want to. It's like a quasi thank you and a cool thing all in one. So as you all know, I have a fairly big birthday coming up next week, and my boss / partner, David Rothschild, he said to me, "Hey, I got a present for you," and I'm like, "Oh, cool," and so we had some work meetings earlier this week in the city, and he was like, "Hey, after everybody bounces, stay. I got your present." I'm like, okay, great. So open up the present. There is a black briefcase, right? Like a security briefcase, like the kind you'd see in like a spy movie, right? Okay. So I open up the briefcase, and inside the briefcase are 6. You know how like in a movie where like there's like an assassin or something, and you open it up and there's like there's a gun and it's like there's foam and the foam is yeah. Okay, so I open up the briefcase and there's the foam and perfectly embedded in it are 6 rectangular items, right? So I look at them. They are each a like a lucite, kind of like trading card size lucite construction, and it is a gold hologrammed, almost like a trading card, but with like an inch thick lucite of the infinity gem, and inside the center of the lucite is an actual gem, like infinity gem, like an actual gem.
Well, not an infinity gem that friggin' works. You mean like
no,
like
but
there's
like
a diamond gem in one, and there's a
not so it's so the mind stone is citrine, the power stone is amethyst, the reality stone is red garnet, the soul stone is Madeira citrine, the space stone is blue topaz, which is actually my birthstone, and the time stone is peridot. And,
so it's relative. I mean, it's not like it's cool, but it's not like platinum and diamond. You know what I mean?
No. Right.
That's what I would expect for you, because that's what I would give you.
So, oh well, that's lovely of you. But no. So and they're like I was like, the whole thing was like incredible. Like the whole layout. Like it's such a cool thing for any collector. But it turns out like you can get these. He just stumbled upon it because he and his wife love to walk around the city and like shop and stuff. But it's part of this thing called the Infinity Gem Collection, and it's with this jeweler group called ECG Concept. And like if you go to their website, you can see all these gems. You can order them too through the mail, but also like I said, I have like the briefcase, but you can get different displays. So there's one that's like wall mounted with like Thanos, where you put the gems in that, and then there's I think like the pièce de résistance. There's a gold infinity gauntlet where the gems fit into that.
Wow, that's crazy.
But, it's real cool. So I thought it was a super thoughtful gift, and something like I didn't even know existed, which is hard for us, right? It's hard to like have a cool comic thing that we're not aware of. So shout out. First of all, thank you, but shout out to Infinity Gem Collection at ECG Concept. If anybody wants to check it out, just you can Google Infinity Gem Collection ECG, or the website is infinity.eastcontinentalgems.com. But super cool, and like you can buy the stones individually if you want. Like you don't have to buy them set like all together. So if a certain color or gemstone or whatever is your vibe, you can, or you're on a budget, like it would. But I think they're great gifts. Like I can't wait to like display it in the comic room. It's going to look great. Definitely conversation piece. So really, really cool, really thoughtful. And they have other neat stuff too. Like they have like full life size Infinity Gauntlets, Loki Scepter, the Eye of Agamotto, like all kinds of cool shit. So it's it's really, really neat stuff. So shout out to East Continental Gems, ECG.
Awesome.
Yeah, really neat.
That's very thoughtful.
I'll take pictures and show it to y'all, because it's better seen than heard. But I wanted to make sure we shouted it out nice and early because it was worthy of a shout out.
I concur.
Very cool.
Yeah. All right, let's talk about the comics.
Let's jump into the one we seemingly are ready to talk about.
Yeah. Kudos to the great Silver Sprocket for at least for the very great thing for me, at least, of making comics enjoyable this year. Mm-hmm. Where I thought there was a bit of a downturn in the mainstream stuff this year, and the indies rose to the challenge. Lots of great stuff from Fanta and company, but specifically from Silver Sprocket, who seem to have this nice little wave of greatness in 2024. And the wave hasn't crashed yet, because we got another one recently for perusal, and it was awesome. It is called The Collected CRIMEHOT, Volume 1. Written and illustrated by Alec Robbins, of course published by Silver Sprocket. It is a massive tome. What is it?
450, right?
450. Is it 450 pages? No, 376 pages.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
But it's still hot, and it's on really decent paper, like thick, toothy. I don't want to call it pulp because it's way better than pulp, but it's on a paper stock that holds the ink really nice, and it has some kind of a tooth, and so it feels really neat when you're reading it. But anyway, it feels like a dirty book, and it should, because it is. It's a very, very.
This is one book where
dirty book.
I'm glad, like when Jason keeps his books on the coffee table, at least the dust jacket on this particular copy hides a little bit of what's inside, because if you remove that dust jacket, you get the uncensored version of
that's the thing about it. It is a very innovative and useful use of the thing that I despise, called the dust jacket. So on the front of the dust jacket are the trio of main characters, and they're not embracing. They're just with each other. And then when you take but they're in very specific, interconnected positioning. And then when you take the cover off, all three of them are fucking or about to fucking. Yeah.
It's like Silver Sprocket took a page out of Boundless.
No, this is actually done well.
Because Alec knows what he's doing. Okay.
So what's the deal about CRIMEHOT? What is the rub? Well, it's, if you wanted to say the elevator pitch, which sucks, but I'll give it. It's the illegal and erotic adventures of a trio of thieves and the creeps and incompetents that pursue them. That's basically it.
Fair.
But it's way more than that. Way
better than that, though. Yeah.
There was a calamity on Earth. Earth hit the skids. And in order for humanity to survive, an algorithm devised a plan.
Yeah, the algorithm.
Well, it was an algorithm, and then it became algorithm. An algorithm devised a plan to extricate everyone off the planet and house them in these domed constructions which are interconnected around a central monolith. Unfortunately, the algorithm got out of hand, and now everyone existing is more or less a slave to the whim of the algorithm. Your day's planned out. All the contingencies have been covered by the algorithm, and so it's basically a slave state, with some exceptions. You have one of the main characters, is a thief called Hayes. Mm-hmm. An oversexed, self-professed greatest thief in the galaxy, probably the greatest thief in history. She's also a shapeshifter, which is really neat. But the thing about Hayes is, specifically related to the algorithm, Hayes is extremely unpredictable. There's no plan going in. Maybe there's a rough plan, but nothing is detailed to the T. She wings it most of the time, and she's successful because the algorithm can't plan for something that doesn't show patterns of behavior. Her pattern of behavior is there's no pattern, and whoop, the algorithm fritzes out. But Hayes has two buddies in the group with her. One is called Blue Lick, a giant submissive man who transformed himself by a body modification machine into an even bigger cat man with a giant tallywhacker. It's huge. It's massive.
Not as big as Heathcliff's, though.
No. Heathcliff's is gigantic. And then my favorite character, well, Garfield and Heathcliff. My favorite character is Rat. Rat was a little skinny little blonde hacker who also willingly subjected herself to the body modification machine. Exaggerated in every respect. Giant pooched out lips, massive breasts, more than ample behind, Amazonian status. And I have to laugh during the course of the book because she's pretty big. in terms of proportion early on, but you get to those last two chapters and she's like,
hey man, you've been away for a while. She's been working out. She's
huge. She's huge.
EBL, you know what I mean?
Yeah. And working for the algorithm is an entity, a being called 100 Cold.
I love the names in this book.
Yes. 100 Cold is just completely subservient to the algorithm, to the point where he will not make a decision that has not already been planned for him. And he's not entirely successful. In fact, he almost never is in corralling Hayes, because again, Hayes and company, they're winging it. And so there's no way to plan for something that doesn't have a plan themselves. Right. Mm-hmm. But 100 Cold is like he's not human. He's more machine than man, but he has these spider-like appendages and he can run really fast, but it doesn't really do him any good. And he wears a trench coat, which is great.
He's like Inspector Gadget, like if he was all white. Like meaning like literally like an all white, like almost like Vision.
Yeah.
Vision. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But more often than not, Hayes will pause a job midstream to have sex with someone or something. And then Blue Lick and Rat gets to their freak on as well. And I love the progression in this book, because there's an escalation. Like, it starts off fairly innocuous, like they're having sex.
I was going to say, first issue, I kind of thought like we were getting false advertising, because like you said, the cover and then the opening page is like, basically says this book is a sexual book, like, beware type of a thing. It says, let's click ignore because the algorithm has detected sexually explicit adult content. You should not proceed. And then, like you said, the first chapter, they're not too much sexual. Like, there's some innuendo, some like fan service, but I was thinking, is this not going to be that? Is this like, are you not really going there?
No.
But to your point, I didn't mean to interrupt, but to your point, we start going there.
Yeah. Robbins leans into it to the point where the last chapter has rivers of semen.
Yes.
I'm not being facetious and exaggerating. No hyperbole. There's actual rivers of semen in the last chapter. It's like,
yes.
Yeah, and those in the immediate vicinity cannot wait to bathe in them. It's insane. But the setup is great. A trio of hyper horny thieves and their adventures. That's neat. But then there's another wrinkle, because there's another trio added to the mix. There are counterparts to our original three. And I don't want to spoil it, because there's an origin story for each, which gives you a little bit of insight into the origin story for our OG trio. But there's a man, a criminal called Bleed Cusser, who believes himself to be the greatest thief ever. And he's about 50% machine, including his ding dong. It's all metal and shit. And then there's another cat who had a history with Blue Lick. This cat is Salt Haven. And see, the thing about Blue Lick is he's very submissive. And Salt Haven was the domineering of the two. And they have history, but I'm not going to reveal it because it's fun and cool. And again, my second favorite is Mouse. Mouse is Rat's counterpart. And also subjected herself to the body modification machine, but to even more extreme levels than Rat. And you will need to find out the hows and whys yourself. But this was the tonic, man. Again, it's just another week of feeling like trying to make sense out of nonsense. One of those kind of weeks where it's just there's a pallor, there's a blanket over everything. I'm just like, I need some distraction. Awesome characters, fucking. That's a good distraction.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And anybody could do a book with characters fucking. But the stories surrounding the fucking were just so entertaining. And just another thing that really got me about this, you know me, I don't like over-rendered art. I don't like stuff that looked like it was chiseled into the illustration board and everything was referenced and there's no margin for error at all. This is immediate. There's a chaotic energy to CRIMEHOT that it's just, you could tell some of the panels. Could the composition have been a little better? Yes. Could the drawing have been a little bit more pre-planned? Yes. But that would have been at a loss of the immediacy. You could tell Robbins is just like, I got to get this out, because it's just like that release that comes with the sex, right? There's a buildup, and he's trying to get those images down, and he does, and it's just so freaking entertaining to me. Mm-hmm. It's just breezy and light and with giant ding dongs. And here's what Jason alluded to, the Garfield dick. There's a museum curator called Prize Gold Maxim who captures himself and Blue Lick and Rat in this miniature. They actually shrink down, and they're enclosed in this miniature glass-walled cube. But more importantly, he captured them in a state of extreme arousal and locked that emotion in. Like, they'll always be in a state of supreme arousal. So they're getting it on, but they're also in full view of the museum patrons. So Gold Maxim transformed sex as art for the patrons. And that's the chapter where there's a massive Garfield statue with a huge ding dong in the museum. And it's like the most expensive piece of art in art history. And the Jim Davis estate loves it. It's so stupid, but it's so wonderful. I mean, there's so much of this too. I mean, you get a ton of erotic escapades. What's the DPP? What's the dicks per page? You know, if you after
2.5?
Maybe after the first page. I mean, there's a lot.
Yeah,
there's a lot.
Dude, there's more semen in this book than Birdland.
And the thing, yeah, I agree. And the thing I like about the book, it's man on woman, woman on woman, man on man. Like there's, yeah.
I mean, that's as we've talked about, that's a Silver Sprocket constant. I mean,
no holds barred, man.
This is sex positivity, no gender normative. Like this, I mean, there's different. Like the Hayes is a shapeshifter, so Hayes can and does morph between male and female genitalia, and
yeah,
no, absolutely.
Sometimes a chick with a dick, which is not
sure.
that bad either.
Yeah, and I don't think you mentioned, but you mentioned the line work, but it's black and white book with some mild gray tones.
There are color chapter
that's true.
pages. Yeah,
I loved it. I mean, I think, like you said, Silver Sprocket's done us right. They are very, very gracious. They send us without asking boxes pretty much every month, I'd say.
I'll tell you,
more than that.
When I saw the box on the doorstep, mm-hmm. I was like Dick Miller, please be a nose. I was like, please be CRIMEHOT. Please be CRIMEHOT. And I opened it up.
Oh, you knew of it?
Oh yeah, we got the PDF like a while ago, and I opened it up and I'm like, nope, not going to read this digitally. I got to get this physically, because I was like, I saw it that this is exactly right in the middle of my love hole.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. I mean, I think a lot of what they provide us and they put out is terrific and worthy of discussion, and we have discussed, excuse me, a lot of it. But for me, this is the best thing like I've read from them, maybe ever, but certainly in a while. I mean, this is right up my alley. Like I thought this was awesome. Sex comics with a ton of fun, but unapologetically, when it's sex. Like, you know me, I do not generally like the fan servicey stuff that doesn't actually go there and just teases. I think it's like, what's the point of that? So yeah, this was great, man. Really great.
And I have to say, it's arousing.
Hey, do you?
Yeah, it is.
The pansexuality is a massive it's a massive proponent to this book. It's I was a little. I thought maybe the other trio was just going to maybe be a passing fad, but I love how they just, because of how they're intertwined with our original trio, that they're just pretty much part of the book for the back half. And as much as I absolutely love all the sex about it, I love how dirty it is. And it's not dirty to be dirty. It's just these are people who just happen to constantly. They're always horny, and I have absolutely no problem with that. It's not. These aren't perverted people. Nobody's trying to like get school kids and do stupid things. This is just horny people who just like each other, and Hayes has to be the hottest one, no matter what anybody else says. And I love the humor. I do, though. I really, really, really. I got to see if Alec will ever get back to exploring the life of Clave Epsilon, because I want to know about the algorithm. As much as I love everything else about this book, I need the backstory of the algorithm of these cities. I gotta. I. That's the part that's just dangling there, and it's like so close. It's like I could almost have that, but this is just every single, as big, as thick as this book is, not as big as Blue Lick is, but as big as this book is, it goes by. The time just flies by. This isn't. I don't want to say like, oh, it's an easy read. You'll breeze right through it. But I mean, considering the illustrations and the story, and it's not super heavy with a ton of dialogue. But I mean, you can move through it pretty briskly and still obtain everything on it. You're not skipping over anything if you do feel like you're breezing through it. There's so much here on almost every page, but there's so much story here. The characters are great. It's a lot of fun. It is absolutely. I mean, and Kyle and Silver Sprocket have sent us a ton of goodies this year. This is absolutely at the top of the list. I mean, we've talked about. I mean, even with when Vince was talking about the couple weeks ago, the skin you're in. I mean, there's been so much good stuff from Silver Sprocket. And to end the year with something like this, it's fantastic.
I mean, review copies are a staple for people that do what we do, right? Because you can't afford everything, and it's nice to get a cross section of a publisher's output. But I feel bad when we get, and I shouldn't be even saying this, but I feel bad when we get the Silver Sprocket boxes because I would have bought them. You know what I mean? It's not like I'm not like just going to wait around until Silver Sprocket sends me my books. If I don't get Silver Sprocket titles, like, in a second, I'm just going to be cheap graphic novels. I'm just going to order them or go to
the premise, I think, of course, is that by us talking about them, and we do talk about them.
I get it. Yeah, it's a give and take.
We'll get a lot more people to buy them that would anyway.
Sure. But I'm saying among of all, like, we get Dark Horse, we get Image. Like, I don't read any of that stuff. But and I don't buy it either for the most part. But the Silver Sprocket stuff is important to me, and I would have bought it if they weren't graciously sending them to us. That proof is in the pudding, Yeah. And this is just so amazing.
Good stuff. Really great. And it says volume 1, so I assume there's more coming. No pun intended.
Yeah. It's online, too. I think that's the thing. He does it online. And then I thought it was funny, a word that Dap used, not knowing what goes on in the last chapter. You got to read the last chapter, Dap.
I will.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, because it's nuts.
Yeah, absolute home run. Such a nice little...
Nuts.
So, I mean, it was a surprise for me. I guess you were expecting it, Vince, but I don't. Because Silver Sprocket does us right with the shipments now. I intentionally just very quickly gloss over their previous solicits, and just because I know that we're going to get it anyway, so I'd like to be surprised. So
yes,
and
what a glorious surprise!
Yep.
From a couple of years ago, I do remember Alex, Mr. Boop. I remember the cover.
Yeah,
I didn't read
he was
the story.
right. He did Mr.
I want to read
this.
it.
Yes,
but yeah, it's definitely. I'm going to see if Silver Sprocket still has Still has
Yeah.
copies because
And this was also put out in issue form as well through Silver Sprocket over the years, but it looks like they're all sold out currently.
You can kill anyone with this volume if you hit him with the spine.
Yes, sir.
Yep. But don't do that because then you get your book all messed up.
Yeah.
Just go buy it. The Collected CRIMEHOT, Volume 1, Alec Robbins, Silver Sprocket rules, okay? There's a reason.
Really awesome.
Yeah, the reason why we say that.
Yep.
What else do we have?
Well, it's hard to follow that, right? Like that's
Well, no. I've seen. There's one thing on your list that I ordered, but I didn't get it yet. But I want to hear about it.
Oh, you know
which one?
About Hobtown mystery stories.
No, I like that. I like. No, I don't get me wrong. I like that, but it's the other
I
one.
know.
You talking about The Hidden Life of Trees?
Yes.
Yeah. So shout out to Jefferson, longtime friend of the show, because I believe it was Jefferson, right? He posted in
he did.
In our Slack. We have lots of channels. One of the channels is the best thing I read this week, which is just a place for people to call attention to specific books that really wow them, right? And Jefferson posted a week or two back, probably 2 or 3 weeks back, that he was so thrilled to have read this because he's absolutely going to have it on his 11 o'clockers ballot, and it was one of the best things he's read in a while, and he was super excited about it. And he kindly posted some of the images from the book, and I thought, oh snap! As soon as I saw the images, I thought, okay, yeah, I hadn't pre-ordered this, but I'm like, okay, I'm ordering it. So I went and grabbed it, and it is well worth. I mean, he couldn't have been more right. So this is called The Hidden Life of Trees. It is a graphic novel adaptation of the massive bestseller from about a decade ago, I think 2015. That book was written by Peter Wolleben, who is a German forester, and when he wrote that book, it was a pretty. I don't know if you guys do you remember the book, like, or did you read it? I don't know.
I remember it when it came out, but I did not read it. Yeah,
it was a real controversial book because the premise of the book is that Peter he's always been a naturist from an early age. He loved nature, but he went into forestry and then kind of had an epiphany that essentially, and that epiphany then led to him becoming, I guess, like the German equivalent of like a ranger. And then through that, he spent the next 15, 20 years really deeply building out almost like an ethos on plants and this idea that they're much more than we give them credit for. That and where it became controversial is the book was a massive bestseller, and like the layman, like the people that read the book, just adored the whole idea. And then scientists totally hated the idea because he in his book, he basically uses terms like friendship and generations, and he talks about how plants nurture one another and keep each other alive, and basically humanizing and imbuing them with like emotional and generational value, right? Things that we don't normally associate with plant life. But all I know is, regardless of where you sit on the science of it, it's a beautiful idea, and it's one that's all about goodness. And the graphic novel really unlocks the book in the sense that, like, the credit to let me mention the creators of the book. It's Fred Bernard is the author of the graphic novel adaptation, and then the art is by a French artist named Benjamin Flao. It's Flao. And the book is lush, beautifully colored, like lush watercolor. And the book is essentially, Peter Wolleben is the star of the book. It's actually him walking around the forest, inspecting things or giving lessons, and the book has a tone to it, almost like a I don't want to say it reads like a children's book, but it's a very calm, straightforward, plain spoken narrative where Peter just goes around explaining all the wondrous things about the trees and the forest and the animals in the forest, and it's just a beautiful experience. I mean, the visuals add such an element to it, but he just gives you all of these fascinating tidbits that a lot of them I didn't know. You know, just things about how moss survives on rocks, right? Or how city trees are brittle because of the root network versus the forestal network, right? And how they're all intertwined. And then things about like how the trees play a role in weather patterns and protecting, landscapes and stuff. Just all like just tons and tons of them. Or how the average tree has one offspring, even though they put out over 60 to 70 million seeds in their existence, right? Like just like all these little tidbits of fascinating information about all of this. And he just goes through the book, kind of walking through the forest and giving you these life lessons about all these things. And then, like I said, there is a bit of I don't want to say it's not religious, but it's like an ethos, like this idea that ultimately he thinks we should leave all of the natural world the fuck alone because it would thrive without us, right? And he's not wrong, right? I mean, that's probably just a true statement. But it's just a beautiful book, man, and it's feel good. Even, the thing is, I think sometimes when you the idea of like climate change or over construction or human intervention in the natural world come up, it's always with a really pejorative tone to it. Like it's very much preachy. And right. That can turn off a lot of people. This is not that. Like this is ultimately probably the preachiest idea. Like he's a devout naturist. Like he devoutly believes that humans should leave nature alone. But like the way the story is constructed and the way he wrote the book and then the way this is adapted, it's just a beautiful. It's like you feel all of his love for the natural world, and there's none of the preachiness. It's just him telling you how badass nature is and how if we all really realized how incredible, like, and intricately intertwined all of plant life and insect life and everything were together, we would have more appreciation for it. And I just thought it was a magical experience. And kudos to Jefferson. I didn't even know this thing existed until he shouted it out. And maybe that's because it's not published from a publisher we normally think about. It's Greystone Books, who I don't know much about. But if they're new to comics, then they should keep making comics, because this was one hell of a first experience with Greystone. So
more of this, please.
Yeah, for sure. So again, it's called The Hidden Life of Trees, and yes, it's based off of the novel people probably have heard of. But
yes,
really, really amazing effort.
Ordered it solely on the merits of the art.
Yeah,
but the concept behind it is extremely compelling to me.
Oh yeah. No, and I mean, I wouldn't say any of the three of us are particularly like naturists, like, right? Like we all appreciate being outside, but it's not like we're not living off the grid. We're not exactly like on the far side of eco-friendly, right? Like we kind of live relatively conventional lives when it comes to that. But I do think we all are also believers in climate change and overdevelopment. And so I think, again, from that perspective, this was just one of those things like, don't hate, celebrate, right?
Yeah.
Like there's lots to be mad about with everything that goes on with humanity and how we treat nature. But this book isn't about that. It's just about like, hey, this shit is way more badass than you realize. And maybe if you realized it, you'd give it more love.
Right.
So
it's good. But I do think there is a need for the flip side, the militant people that are just like, this stuff is going to win. Nature's going to win. So,
always.
You think you have your Lord
over nature.
Greta.
How dare you?
Well, no, I mean, when you got a person that's going to roll back environmental protections for billionaires, that's fucked up. That says everything you need to say right there, right? But nature's going to get you. So, unfortunately, it's not only going to get them, it's going to get everybody. That's the bad part.
Last of Us, right? Or we're going to become fungi.
Yeah, whatever. Matango, the fungus of terror.
But really incredible. Definitely for people that are looking for those end of year books that you maybe didn't realize that are going to be up there in the pantheon of the best stuff that came out this year. I think this is certainly in the hunt.
Truth. Jason doesn't lie.
That's true.
No, I try not to. Yeah.
So the continuing my reading what Jason has read in recent weeks. I read the first 3 issues of the Tin Can Society,
Nice.
which, as you mentioned, is it's pretty much the first Giant Generator book not written solely by Rick Remender. In fact, this is written by Peter Warren, art by Francisco Mobley, colors by Chris Chuckry, and I didn't know what to expect, but I'm glad I had all 3 issues.
I literally told you what to expect.
You did. No, you did. But I'm saying by the time I finally got around to reading it,
Yes.
and I'm like, okay, and obviously, the first page is a bit of a gut punch, and Warren actually comments on that in the back matter, but it's pretty much about a group of friends. Johnny, who is for the most part should be the star of the show, but and his friends that he meets in school, Keisha, Adam, Greg, and Val, and they sort of kind of try to stay close as they get older, but it is a superhero-ish story. There's a whole murder mystery thing going on, which I really like, and I kind of have some ideas who I think could be behind it, based on their actions in the first couple of issues. But the art's great, but I really I like how we're getting thrown between the flashbacks and the present day, and secrets that friends are keeping from one another, and just how much larger their world is beyond from their school days. And Johnny's origin, of course, is a bit tragic because he's born with spina bifida, and he's not, and which of course means his parents get to leave him, just walk away at the hospital. But then he's adopted by Christian Scientist, which of course we know is an oxymoron, and he just tries to make a better life for himself, and lifting up others. You would think, at least that's what it appears, and whether or not it continues, we'll see how things go. But yeah, I just thought it was a lot of fun. It's a solid story. Like I said, I really like the art, but the whole mystery aspect is where I'm really finding it shining. I dig the whole physics of this universe, the way certain people behave and react, and what kind of things you can expect. I was, as you said, yes, you did break it down when the series started, but I was quite pleasantly surprised because the art, even with the covers kind of attracted me to it, and then I get into it. But yeah, even after everything you said, there was still enough to surprise me as I'm getting through the issues that I'm glad you did not give a whole hell of a lot away, which you never do. But this was quite a nice surprise, and sexy in spots, especially in the third issue, as we see some friends get real friendly. But yeah, I liked it a lot. I think it's 9 issues, but yeah, whatever it comes out to, definitely, yeah, 3 of 9. So yeah, it's a 9-issue miniseries from Giant Generator. It's weird because I started reading the sequel to Cowl, and I was like, this just isn't. I enjoyed the first series a lot, and this spinoff or this the second volume is not really clicking. So I picked up Tin Can Society, and I'm like, this is what I was kind of hoping. Not the same thing, but I was kind of hoping I'd get that feeling with Cal that I got with Tin Can Society. So it's definitely scratching an itch that I had. But yeah, I can't wait to see where it goes from here. Definitely dig. I'm glad you brought it up, Jason.
Respect. I'm glad you enjoyed it. I see that Vince is has a book on his list that I chatted about as well.
Yes, I do, but I don't want to talk about that right now.
Okay, fair enough.
I'm going to get into it.
Okay.
But I don't make concessions for types of art, whether they're indie or mainstream or underground. Like, art's art. So anything could be a masterpiece, I think. And it's very surprising to me when a book that I would call mainstream achieves that status with me. I read a legit masterpiece out of the mainstream this weekend. And it was a book that I had just kind of glossed over when it was originally coming out, and then the collected edition came out, and but I'm firmly lodged in the imprint from whence this book came. So they solicited a deluxe edition, and I said, all right, I got to rectify my mistake. I got to read this thing and see what's cooking, because this character plays into the narratives of 2 other characters or more within the Ghost Machine imprint.
There we go.
And I read Junkyard Joe, the deluxe edition, from Jeff Johns, Gary Frank, Brad Anderson, and Rob Lee. And it's only 6 issues, but I have to say that it is a stone cold masterpiece. It would be an amazing, and I shouldn't do this, but I'm going to, because it plays out like an amazing big budget movie. It would have to be a big budget movie with the title character being a robot, so there would be a lot of special effects to be done. But this would make an amazing film. But it makes an even better comic. Jason, did you read Junkyard Joe?
No.
It's awesome. It is amazing. It tells of a group of a squad of Vietnam soldiers called the Junkyard Dogs. Right. One day they receive a newbie to their ranks. Guy flies in on a chopper, and he's very low key, very mum, expressionless almost. And because he's new, the squad's kind of giving him the distance. Because when you're in a field of battle like Vietnam, where every step could be your last, you're not going to want to embrace somebody who hasn't been in the field, right? Who doesn't know, doesn't have experience with that kind of warfare. Jungle warfare is a bitch, right? There's a gazillion different angles from which you could get taken out, right? Shadows, the elevation, it's just, you could fall in a pit and just be massacred. Suicide bombers, like, jungle warfare is bad. I don't know how those guys even took one step into the jungle. They must have been petrified. But anyway, many have done it, right? So, but one of the Junkyard Dogs takes it upon himself to start talking to this guy. And this man's name is Maury Davis. Goes by the name Muddy Davis. And so he starts, just treating this guy like a human being. It's like, don't worry, we'll get you set up. So the squad is ambushed, and a couple of them are taken out. And the new guy just jumps into action, just shoots amazingly quick, and takes out all of the hidden VC that just murdered, two members of their squad. But in doing so, he's uncovered. He's a robot. He's a man of metal. And the squad wants nothing to do with him. But that's where Maury, or Muddy, comes in and slowly integrates this robot into, they name him Joe. They integrate the robot into the ranks. Maury softens him up. It's like, this thing, I guess, just saved our asses. why don't we, treat him, and they start playing cards, and there's a montage, where you could see that Joe was slowly becoming and learning, one of the gang, right? But it gets really bad. It's Vietnam. What do you expect, right? There's, an ambush. And when you get into the personalities of all of the squad, like Sarge just wants to go home and see his 6-year-old daughter. That's all he wants in life, is just to go home and hear his daughter's voice and see her. And every member of the squad has, they're human. They have their own wants and desires, and the robot's picking up on all this. He's hearing all this stuff. And so there's an ambush, and there's an oxen. And they're walking down this dirt road, and they see the oxen, and they're like, "Oh, okay, but wait a minute!" And there's C4 strapped to the oxen, and it's detonated, and Sarge dies, and so do many of the other members of the squad. And then the VC come out of the bushes and just blow the hell out of everybody in the squad except Maury. Maury's wounded. He's down. And Joe's combat programming kicks in. And he grabs a gun and he pursues every last one of these VC and just annihilates the whole group. But he makes a mistake. Because as he's fired, there was more than one target. As he was firing from both directions, side to side, and not looking behind him, but he could register that there was a target there. And he fires, and in eliminating the target, he also killed a child. And so it breaks his robot brain. He does not, he cannot compute the loss of a child. So he destroys the guns, bucks his programming, and just heads out of there. And so Maury's saved. He's in the VA hospital and stuff, and he's sent back home. And years and years and years go by. And Maury's not sure whether Joe was real or not. He's wondering if it wasn't a trauma-induced memories, of this thing that wasn't there, but that was his way of coping. And so he creates a comic. He was an artist, loved to draw. Creates a comic strip called Junkyard Joe, and it becomes massively popular. And not only with the critics thought it was great because it showed the human aspect of war and all of the trials that these men and women go through defending, hopefully our country and otherwise. And so, but not only was it a hit with the critics, but the public loved it as well. So he goes back to his town of that he left from. He marries the girl of his dreams, starts the strip, becomes super popular. That his little town becomes a noteworthy, like a stopping place in this state where, it's, hey, this is the town where Muddy's from. He did Junkyard. So he's like a local celebrity, and he's huge. It's as if Charles Schultz lived in the town. And, one day gets a knock on his door, and it's Joe. Yeah. And I mean, there's a subplot with a family, that moved in. Like, Muddy's wife had died a couple months prior to the current events in the book. And you get a family moving in where a father and 3 children, were escaping because the mother died and he can't outrun her memory. So he wants to relocate and new, the deal, new schools for the kids. They're trying to integrate, and they're half Asian, and so they're, people are assholes. So, it's I won't say any more, but it's an amazing book. There's a shit ton of heart in it. Obviously someone is pursuing Joe for whatever reasons, and that throws both Muddy and the family into the shit. But I think this is an absolutely perfect story. It's one of those things that it's grounded in realism. It's Gary Frank. It's awesome. So everybody can wrap their heads around a Vietnam vet, coming back and all of the things that they had to deal with. And this guy just had it. He made lemonade, right? He took all his experiences in the war, made a comic strip out of it, became famous. Spent many, many, many decades with the woman of his dreams. She died, and then now this thing from his past comes into his life that he really wasn't sure existed. And he's like, "You are real." It's like the M&M's commercial with Santa Claus, right? Yeah. So yeah, Junkyard Joe's so freaking good. And on the last, I think, page or two, there's a tie-in to Geiger and Redcoat and something else. So it's
something else that they kind of sprung on us in the most recent issues.
Yeah. Like the Unknown War starts, I believe, with Junkyard Joe, which predates Geiger, but Joe was in Geiger. So it's if you're into the Ghost Machine stuff, this is must reading. You need to read Junkyard Joe. Not only is it phenomenal, but it will give you further information for what's going to happen in those books. So good.
You make it sound a lot cooler than I thought it did when I read the solicit.
No, it's great. I would not shit you at all. I would.
I mean, the comic book angle is the hook. I didn't know that. Like, I thought it was. Yeah.
And you get facsimile pages of Muddy's work, and they look very much like Charles Schultz doing a war comic. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Respect.
No, I wouldn't recommend it to you because I know you're not super plugged in on the Ghost Machine stuff, but you don't even need to have read any of that. This is a standalone story that just so happens on the last page to tie into the Ghost Machine books.
Mm-hmm.
There's
all right.
The pursuers are evil, and they resemble Nazis. So what's
I'll stick with what works.
Yeah. Nazis bad.
Yes.
Yes. It's true. What else do we have? She does not understand that she cannot walk on comic books. You cannot do that.
Well, let's keep the bangers going. I got another banger here.
Okay.
And it's from creators that I don't believe have ever worked together before, but are two excellent creators that I knew would work well together. It is The City Beneath Her Feet, #1, published by our friends at Distillery. It brings together one of the current powerhouse writers du jour, James Tynion IV, with one of my favorite artists of the era, Elsa Charretier, who most recently has been working with Tom King. But she's taking a break from that book and working with James on this. And it's phenomenal, dude. First of all, I mean, I love her art. So like I'm never gonna not enjoy on some level a book that she draws. But this was a blast, dude. The premise is that we're introduced to this short-haired blonde cutie who is a little bit off, like she's a little weird, a little quirky, and she kind of just storms into a black tie event, and she's talking to someone during the whole process, so there's clearly something going on. But she wreaks havoc. She's like straight, assassin for hire type. Comes in like, looking all demure and like this quirky little petite girl, and then she just whoops some ass. But she's not perfect. She comes out of the mission somewhat worse for wear. She's been shot, and she's trying to make her way back like John Wick style to safety, and she comes across a totally normal woman named Zara, and Zara's feeling some kind of way because she is like a formerly successful novelist. She wrote a book years ago that was based in a lot of her own childhood trauma, and it was a bestseller. But she has had almost no success in the subsequent years writing a book. And so she just feels like her life is just mundane. Nothing exciting ever happens. Nothing inspirational ever happens. So imagine to her joy that she's living in this world of mundane everyday life, and she comes across this beautiful, quirky, bloodied hit woman who brings her back to her place and helps Zara stitch her up, and they're fast friends with benefits. But Jane Jasper being a an assassin, she comes and goes. I mean, she disappears for months on end, but then she'll pop back up. Sometimes she'll pop up covered in blood. But she's always down for the hookup when she sees Zara, and Zara's completely mesmerized by her, as you might imagine. But what we don't know is that Zara, during all of these encounters over a few year period, is using these meetings and this intimacy of getting to know Jasper for inspiration to write a new book, and this book is a bestseller. And the thing is, you might have thought twice about writing a book about an assassin, right? Like, that's probably not the smartest thing in the world to do. And then shit goes tits up, and I don't want to give away the hook of the first issue, but I will say that this first issue is in many ways a prequel. Let's put it that way. And then what's to happen in issue 2 and beyond is a completely different circumstance involving Zara. So, book looked great. It was sexy. It was action packed. It was bloody. Everybody that Elsa draws is beautiful to look at, and she really went overtime. She colored the book herself this time, and it's just popping with color. Colors are popping. So love the format. Tynan is a great writer, so it's nice to see Tynan write a book that isn't supernatural or horror tinged. Like, real nice, actually. Because I've wanted that out of him. Like something a little more straightforward and not to say that his stuff, obviously, that he does in the supernatural world isn't awesome. I mean, that's why he's become who he is. But it's nice to see him stretch his writing chops a bit, and I'm totally here for that. So. Much love to Distillery, The City Beneath Her Feet, #1, absolute banger, and I will be back for the rest of the series for sure.
Sweet. I usually check out Tiny and stuff, but I don't know. When he's paired, I don't want to shit on it, but when he's paired with somebody whose work I gravitate to, then yeah. You know what I mean? But he works with so many people. So it's kind of like pick and choose. But I have not seen this yet. So sure. I will give it a look.
It hurts my heart that you're besmirching Elsa, but that's cool.
I'm not besmirching Elsa. I'm just saying I want to see the work first.
Mm-hmm. That's cool. You can besmirch. It's fine.
Okay. I'm besmirching.
Yep.
I don't buy anything without looking at the interior. Never.
Yep. Never. There was, this was something that I checked out solely because of the interior. And comparing this and then his work on Absolute Wonder Woman, and even checking out the first couple pages of Batman Dark Patterns, I continue to be pretty impressed by Hayden Sherman's ability to not use the same style on every story he works on. And this particular story, which I guess we can give some kudos to Scott Snyder for writing this tale. This is Dark Space's Wildfire. And Hayden Sherman is the artist. Rhonda Pattison is the colorist. It's published by IDW, and it is about a band of female, sort of kind of firefighters, and they, but they're women prisoners. The leader of this group, her name is Ruby May Ning, and everybody on the line calls her Ma. She's the one who's been there the longest, and her team consists of Sawyer, who's 40 years old, operates the heavy tools to cut away the brush. Zin is she's been on the line for 8 years. She's the bucker, meaning that she clears the path after Sawyer cuts through. Ramos is what is known as the spooner. She's in charge of monitoring conditions, making sure there are no surprises on the horizon. And Brooks is the swamper, which is cleanup. She's been there the least amount of time. So the story, it starts off, I thought it was, and again, this is credit to Snyder, because I thought the story was, the kind of telegraphed the ending early on. He didn't, and it kind of makes sense as you get near the end of the tale. When I got to the end of I based on how I was enjoying everything that these women, well, I don't want to say enjoying what they were going through, but I was in on this story. I was super invested, wanted to see, I wanted nothing but the best for these women, regardless of what they did that caused them to be in this situation. But the book, the trade, it's not flat, but it kind of, maybe I just wasn't in the right headspace when I got to the end of it, but it wasn't a whimper. It didn't have, the end didn't have the impact that the bulk of the story had. And, but thinking on it afterwards, it does make sense based on everything that they went through. But, they end up stumbling on this house that's pretty fortified. It's got a state-of-the-art security system, and it's pretty well insulated. It would be able to do a pretty decent job of, if the structure didn't survive any fires, at least the innards would. And turns out somebody on the line is actually familiar with this house and knows the owner, and the owner has done some dirt. And there are things in this house that these women, if they're able to get away, would be set for life. If only they can, maybe either fool people into thinking they've died in a fire, or just plumb got away. But as is usually, things go wrong, and it's not all happiness, but it is such a solidly drawn story. Yes, since these women are in prison, they've whether they were framed, whether they did it, they're in this situation for a reason. So you do want to root for them, but like I said, things are not what they seem. But we do learn about each of the women and what they have to look forward to if they can get out. If they really do care for one another, because someone's even willing to kind of sacrifice themselves so that the others can maybe move on and find better lives. But Hayden's art is absolutely fantastic. The colors pop. There's some very bright colors here and there, which can be weird considering the story's a little smoky and dark, and obviously in some pages pretty bright. But yeah, I think Sherman's layouts are fantastic. Everybody looks everybody has a distinct look. Nobody is there's nothing really cookie cutter about it. Again, with the panel layouts, especially when we get to when we get a little bit of in one of the later chapters, we get a page of each of the women, and the way he does the splash page and fools around with panels and design work on each of those pages. It's just dude's becoming like someone that other artists should definitely watch out for. But it was a really solid tale. It took me a minute. I had it for a while. I just never got around to reading it, but I finally picked it up a couple weeks ago and just plowed right through it. I was going to say powered through it, but that would imply that it was a chore. It wasn't. I could definitely see this being made into a movie. But yeah, I thought it was there might be a couple things that are telegraphed that might not be so surprising, but you're so wrapped up in what's going on the page, you kind of, it could be easy to overlook or still be surprised when things are revealed. But yeah, I dug it a lot. So if you do get a chance to pick it up, it's from IDW, Dark Spaces, Wildfire.
I do have it.
Nice.
Yeah, I like it's Hayden, so I think the visuals are great. I probably won't read it. Right. Yeah. But I think as an art book, it works really well.
Oh no, you're not lying. You're not lying. And I mean, and there are again, because if you look at, depending on how you approach the story, if it's a heist, if it's just about a bunch of strong women, if it whatever you want to view to look at it, it's still Snyder. But I mean, it's not like it's not Batman Snyder. It's not it's not American Vampire Snyder. But it's like I said, Hayden's the reason why I finally checked it out. But the story, at least that Snyder was telling, wasn't offensive by any means.
Right. I don't know. I'm not going to talk about the Superwoman thing.
Okay.
Until
I know you had a question about it.
I do have a question, and I think it's ridiculous that. So, Kryptonians don't have powers on Krypton. They're just made of sterner stuff, right? They can't fly. They don't have the heat vision or the cold breath or the invulnerability. I mean, they're tough, right? But they're not super powered on Krypton, right? So I don't call that a superpower. So if I was on the moon and I jumped, I can jump much higher on the moon than I could on Earth. I'm not superpowered on the moon, right? So that's where that Superwoman thing kind of tripped me up, where Superman's only Superman because of the yellow sun.
Right.
Okay. So just read it.
Because his body is able to absorb.
Right. Just
his
read it.
Basically like a solar
so
battery.
All Kryptonians are therefore the same in that respect. Supergirl's powerful because yellow sun, right?
Yes.
Okay. Then I just don't understand how they got to the end. They got to the explanation about her super. Yeah. Just read it. Read it.
I'll read it.
It's weird, dude. It does not make any sense. But you know what does make sense? Saving money. Saving money makes a whole lot of sense.
I know that.
And you can save a whole lot of it at cheapgraphicnovels.com. Cheapgraphicnovels.com have all the OGNs, the omnibus editions, the trade paperbacks, the artist editions, all that stuff at a fraction of the cover price. Order, receive the confirmation, reply to the confirmation. 11 O'Clock Comics sent me free shipping on your next order, but that's only for first-time customers. Please, wherever you listen to this, leave us a review, or if there's like a star system that you can just click easily and you don't have to make a review. Just some kind of a feedback would be really nice. And if you're bored, check out our Patreon page, patreon.com/11 o'clock comics. Our patrons will be getting a 4-hour bonus behind the scenes episode, probably, what's today, Thursday? Probably Friday night.
Wow.
4 extra hours of crap. Who doesn't want that? Right?
Who doesn't?
Yes. In your travels.
Consummate salesman.
I know. I don't want to hard sell it. If they want to come, they'll come. If they don't want to come, that's fine too. I have 2 things. One, in passing, one not. Jason told you all about this book a while back. It's by the great Josh Simmons. It's called Jessica Farm, and it's published by Fantagraphics. Let me refresh your memories. Josh did 1 page a month of this thing for 24 years.
Insanity.
24 years, which means this is not over. The book does not, or the story of Jessica does not conclude with this volume. If you want the whole story, you're going to have to read it when it's published in 2050. I'm hoping I'm around for that. I think I got a shot, right?
You got, yeah.
Because it'd be like, that'd be 85.
Right.
Oh, for sure. You're there.
Yeah, I got a shot. But I can't say whether I'm more enamored with the concept or with the actual execution. Because it's kind of a toss-up, right? Both are really rich. It's a hell of a commitment, right? Regardless that each turn of the page of this book is a month in this man's creative life. So you can see, if you're on page 18, by the time you get to page 116, you can see the progression and the refinement of Josh's visual voice. You can see the increase in confidence and approach, and sometimes less is more. And I don't think Josh knew that in the first dozen or so pages or more, because there's a lot of lines. And then towards the middle, you see just like, all right, I'm just going to let these shapes work. I'll let them do the job. And I won't get too intricate with the figure drawing, or I will leave a lot of things to the imagination of the reader. And it's just amazing. I mean, the book, there's no, the intricacy of the story and the characters and the images doesn't decrease, but I think he uses detail in a much better way later on in the story, right? And okay, obviously the comparison to Alice in Wonderland, Lewis Carroll's Alice in Wonderland is obvious and easy, but it's a good comparison because you get this girl wakes up on Christmas morning. There's very, very strong clues that her father, who's a cartoon character, is abusive and beats the ever-loving shit out of her for every shred of respect and love he gives her. But it's Jessica Farm lives on a farm, and the farm is like a TARDIS. It's far bigger on the inside than it is on the outside. So there's rooms that really don't make sense in this, like an architect would not build these things into a building, yet there they are. There's a tree that moves on a circular platform and a pole that she can slide down to get to other rooms. And it's just a progression of very, very strange characters. She's sent on a mission, and in completing that mission, characters die. Let's just put it that way. And she hooks up with a strapping young man named Sugar Dick.
Oh, Sugar Dick.
I wish my nickname was Sugar Dick. Jason was dead on. I love Josh Simmons, but he didn't need to convince me because I already bought it. But,
I was going to say, you put me on to Josh Simmons.
Yeah. When you look at the Josh Simmons bibliography, he hasn't done a whole lot of work. I mean, there's enough of stuff of his out there, but yeah. I think he's omnipresent because there's a lot of anthologies that I've seen Josh in, and I treasure his work. He doesn't, you got Black River and Flayed Corpse from Fanta. You got House, The Furry Trap, and Dream of the Bat from Mansion. And from Floating World, remember, Josh participated in the All-Time Comics with my man, Josh Bayer. So, and they also have that new book. That book is called Josh, where all the contributors are named Josh. Josh Simmons, Josh Bayer, but whatever. So get Jessica Farm. It is one of the more intriguing and entertaining and just creatively rich things I've read in 2024. Hint, hint.
Love it.
Yes. In your travels, the second issue of Tim Lane's Mythologies and Apocrypha is out from Fantagraphics. This one is a combination of the Tim Lane stuff that we saw in the first issue, a little bit of Chris Ware here and there, and wouldn't you know it, some Al Columbia to season the mix. There are it's still the chairman of the board, right, and his relationship with Steve McQueen. Frank is an asshole, of course, and Steve McQueen is, yeah. But there are sections on the Tonight Show with Joey Bishop and Frank and Dean, and then I don't know, I don't understand how all this stuff is going to lock together, but I don't care. We finally find out who the ragged man in the hotel room is, and it's Steve McQueen. Because there was a point in Steve McQueen's career when he just like, fuck it. He just went off and just stopped. He stopped making movies. He just exited the whole Hollywood thing. But there's even an image of Gina Lollobrigida in this. Like, where are you going to find a comic with an illustration of Gina Lollobrigida? But I think this is great. James Coburn's in it. I don't profess to say that I know how any of this factors together, but the art is just amazing. It turns out that Steve McQueen's mom was a whore, and that's where the Al Columbia like strips come in. Like he only has, as in Pim and Francie, there's a reduction going on with his facial features. And so little Stevie just has 2 black eyes, and he's dirty and he's not well tended to, and mom's a whore. So long story short, he wakes up he wakes up underneath his own couch while there's a naked man on it. His mother's nude next to him, like, cause they were doing it. There's a thug with a broken bottle next to him. Like, this is how the kid woke up. There's a strong, very strong Pim and Francie vibe to some of this stuff. But that's a good thing, right? I think so. Yeah, I'm reading this in singles, but you know damn well I'm going to buy the collected edition and try and make sense of it all. Because Frank Sinatra is there's a strip where Frank on the set of that movie, Never So Few, where Frank continually tries to blow up Steve McQueen with firecrackers. Just throws firecrackers at him, puts them in his pants, and then you see Steve McQueen, after the first incident, he's got a Band-Aid on his forehead, and after the second one, he's got his head wrapped in bandages, and then, he's got an eye patch on, and he's bandages all over, and he picks up a prop gun, and he starts firing at Frank, and Frank didn't know that they were prop bullets. And so because of that, because Frank respected him. Because if Frank threw shit at you and you didn't throw shit back, Frank would eat you alive. So if you're a fan of any of this stuff, Steve McQueen, Frank Sinatra, Gina Lollobrigida, and just love that. I just love that name. I knew a girl in high school, Gina, and we used to call her Gina Lollobrigida. Can you imagine calling somebody Gina Lollobrigida now? They would never know who it is. But yeah, just Frank and Dean on the Tonight Show with Joey Bishop making total assholes of themselves, sexually propositioning a woman for money on national TV, like crazy stuff. Mythologies, yes, Mythologies and Apocrypha #2, Tim Lane, Fantagraphics books, $5.99. worth every friggin' penny.
Feels like it.
I don't completely understand it. I would say I'm about 40% understanding it, but that's okay. It'll eventually make sense, or it won't. But
It's good enough for Gary to publish. I'm sure it's good enough to read.
I don't know if that's entirely true.
It really isn't. Really. In your travels, since his name was mentioned already, this is the first issue of a limited series written by Tom King, illustrated by Ryan Sook, and colors by Dave Stewart. It's Black Canary, Best of the Best. I wasn't really sure about a comic where a Black Canary is going to go a bunch of rounds with Lady Shiva, but Tom does make it interesting, and of course Ryan makes it look pretty. But and what's interesting is there's some pages here where Ryan looks like he's channeling some Gary Frank, maybe even some Steve Rude, all in good ways. But it's pretty much, this issue is pretty much Diana being just kind. I'm sorry, Dinah getting into fighting shape. She travels to see her mom so she can get some practice in. Even though I guess somebody thought Ted might have been there to do the sparring, but there's also it's another story where things aren't really what they seem. There's a we get Tom jumps around with the timeline storytelling a little bit. We do get some moments in the ring during the first round. We get Dinah seeing her mom, arguing with her mom. We see Dinah's friends back home watching the fight. There's a nice double page spread with a bunch of members of the Justice League and the Titans sitting around watching the fight. I know who 99 there's one character that I'm not 100% sure who he is, but for the most part I can tell who everybody is on this page. But yeah, it's not necessarily a very straightforward story. I am curious to see how Tom is going to write his way out of this, or I kind of think we know who's going to win the fight, or at least who should win the fight, but whether or not that actually happens remains to be seen. I had a lot more fun with it than I thought I would. I'm not it as much as I enjoy choreographed stunt people having fun in a wrestling ring. I'm not real big on boxing or MMA. I don't need to see two people just pummeling the shit out of each other. So, wasn't really sure if I was going to groove to a comic with Black Canary doing that. But since this isn't just 30 pages of blows to the head, I'm enjoying it, and it's only the first chapter, so there's not a ton to really kind of guess where we're going yet. But I'm along for the ride. I'm concerned about Mom, and there's one character that's pretty much going to be a turnoff for Vince ever reading this. And
yeah, I was going to say, I didn't know if you were going to mention that, but yeah.
No, I wasn't going to. But
yeah.
Is it Vandal freaking Savage?
Yeah, it's Vandal freaking Savage.
Yeah, I'm not touching that shit. Even though Dinah is one of my favorite DC women.
Literally, as I was reading this, I saw that I turned the page in Vandal Savage. I know. I'm like, oh, Vince is out.
I was like, of all the motherfuckers she's got to be speaking to right now.
Yeah, you can shove that Savage right up your ass. I know.
I know. But no, I think I think the art's great. And I'm curious to see what Tom does with some of my favorite characters. So yeah, in your travels, the first issue of Black Canary, Best of the Best by King, Sook, and Stewart.
Nice
indeed. Speaking of Tom King, shout out to our boys Brian, and Hassan, who do a podcast called Comics Discourse 114. And very cleverly, for their 114th episode, they had Tom King on, which was their first ever guest. Well, we've all been guests, but their first ever creator guest. So
right.
Pretty cool synergy there. Also, a reminder of how long I'm fucking doing this show, guys. I book group, and Peter Linfield had a very long, lovingly post about this book called Pinocchio by Winchluss, how everybody should read it. So I went and looked. I talked about that book in episode 197 back in 2012.
I think I may have left Chris Campbell's house with it.
That's
when we
crazy.
went to fucking Baltimore.
Yeah, that's crazy. So we have been doing this for a long ass time. With all that said, there were a lot of allusions this episode to things that we loved this year. And the year is fast ending. We have, 3 weeks left of the year? And so what I need you all to do, if you haven't already done so, is go to 11o'clockcomics.com. You will see a tab up at the top that says the 2024 11 O'Clockers. You should click that tab if you haven't already. It will bring you to a Google form, and you will fill out 2 questions. Just 2 this year, not 36, just 2. Your 10 favorite comics of the year and your 5 favorite creators. If you do that, you become, not only do you make us eternally happy for your participation, but you also then become entered in a drawing that we will do, as we always do, in our annual 11 O'Clockers episode. We will pick one of the people who submitted a legitimate entry, and we will do a random drawing on air, and the winner of that will get a gift certificate to cheapgraphicnovels.com. Yes. And the more of you that submit votes, the larger the gift certificate award becomes, and it can be up to $200. So let's keep those votes coming in, and fingers crossed to the person who becomes the lucky winner. But yeah, and now in your travels, Dap mentioned it when we were trying to guess which book Vince was referring to that I had on my list, and that is the Hobtown Mystery Stories, Volume 2, The Cursed Hermit. This is published by Oni Press. We talked quite a bit about the first volume, so this is a continuation of that. It's written by Chris Burton and drawn by Alexander Forbes. This is a story of a bunch of young high school era age detectives in a small town called the Hobtown Junior Detective Club. This volume, The Cursed Hermit, takes place. They are fast approaching Christmas break, and 2 of the members of the club, Brennan and Pauline, are invited to participate in a camp, a Christmas during Christmas break, like an extra credit camp at an academy called Knotty Pines, which is like up on a mountain. So they go to this place for the Christmas break, away from their friends, and the thing is fucking weird. The headmaster is super creepy. They're teaching them like etiquette rules as if it's 1920 about men being men and women being women. It's super hella weird. As the week goes on, more and more the kids start acting strange, like Invasion of the Body Snatchers type stuff. They start seeing hallucinations. They see ghosts. There's body horror, weirder and weirder. And I got to say, this is a on the nose. Like I don't know this for sure because I haven't met either of these guys. But if these guys aren't directly trying to pay homage to David Lynch and Blue Velvet, I don't like. Clearly, they're influenced by him, as are many people. But there's definitely some David Lynchian vibes here, which is certainly a good thing if it's done well, and I think it is. And it was a hell of a yarn, man. It's weird and creepy and surreal, and it's in this unassuming wrapper of this kind of like Encyclopedia Brown Hardy Boys ethos that you're not expecting this strange surreal stuff to happen in that world. So it's nicely off-putting, and yeah, I loved it. I didn't realize when we talked about the first volume that these books came out a few years before from a small press publisher, and they were black and white because both of these volumes are in beautiful color. So I don't know what the black and white books look like comparatively, but I think the color definitely fits here. So yeah, and we've got more to come. I know there's 4 or 5 of them that have been published. So more to come. But Hobtown Mystery Stories Volume 2, The Cursed Hermit, was great. I think I liked it a little better than the first volume, and I really enjoyed the first volume.
Oh, neat. Okay.
Yeah.
Also, before we wrap up, you want to give a shout out to our boy DW?
Yes, thank you for that. DW, Daniel White, is another friend of the show, long time boo. He is, many of you probably know the name, because he is one of the artists who had won the annual EOC podcast cover art contest so many times that we retired him and put him in the Hall of Fame. He is, in addition to many things, a very, very talented artist. Many of us have beautiful original art from him. And because he's been hella busy with other parts of his life, he hasn't really been soliciting commissions for a long time. But he is back open for commissions. And as someone who owns, gosh, I don't know, 8, maybe 10 of his commissions, I definitely can say firsthand that they are worth your time. He's able to draw anything as long as he's vibing with it. Very talented, very affordable. So check him out. Easiest way to check him out is you can go to Instagram and check out, his name is Birds in Boxes, BIRDSINBOXES on the Insta, and go through his link tree. Or if you're a little more adventuresome, you can just go to Etsy, and his Etsy name, you can search for Daniel White, but his Etsy name is DW1376. And either will take you. If you go straight to Etsy, you'll see a link for commissions, and you can just click on it directly. But otherwise, if you just ping him on IG, tell him that we sent you, he will definitely be in the market for hooking you up with a badass commission. So check it out.
Yes. But don't get a commission because he's a friend of the show. Get a commission because he's freaking awesome and does really good work.
Oh,
Yes.
100%.
Yeah.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. Well, that's what I was saying. I own 8 or 10 of his pieces. Yeah. Dude's a beast.
Ask him to draw Robin.
Oh. He'll be your bestie. He'll be your best friend forever.
You'll be his best friend. He loves the Robin. All right, everybody. Hey, thank you for being here with us one more time. We hope you enjoyed yourself.
One more time.
We had a great time doing this, and we'll be back next week. But do yourself a favor. Get yourself to a comic book shop or an online retailer and buy some comics. There's a whole lot of really good ones out there right now.
True.
Read them.
We talked about some of them.
Yeah, read them, talk about them, and come back next week when we'll be talking about even more really good books. Yep. So in the meantime, say goodnight. What's his name? Francis.
Uh-huh.
It's not Francis. I was looking through the previews. There's another volume of the definitive Nemesis the Warlock, and I'm thinking to myself, how many fucking times am I going to buy this thing?
I know.
I've purchased it maybe 5 times already, and yet here I am. Click, David.
Oh, you're buying it? Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
Good night.
Not the hardcover versions. Yeah, I don't need the hardcover ones. Paperback's fine with me. They're of very good quality. But again, do I really need them? It's not a bull.
Well, we don't really need any of this stuff. We just love it.
It's true. We don't need it at all.
Exactly.
Kevin O'Neill, though? What?
Bro, it's good. It's good. I mean, it's Kevin O'Neill. It's almost like we need it.
Right.
Cheaters.
We love you so much. Tell them so.
Oh, for
So much.
all of the things.
Don't let them get you down, people.
That's it for that one.